Have you ever noticed how some markets feel like they're being played by just a handful of giants? You know, a high-stakes game where if they all just cooperated, they'd make a fortune, but one secret move, one broken promise, and the whole thing can just come crashing down. Well, today, we're going to crack open the rules of that very game, and trust me, what you're about to see might just change the way you look at business forever.
Just think about the chip inside your computer. Right now, chances are it's made by one of just two companies, Intel or AMD. It's a classic showdown, right? They're in this constant battle for your business, always trying to one-up each other. But here's the thing, they are definitely not the only pair in town.
And it doesn't stop there. Grab your TV remote. The battery inside? Probably a Duracell or an Energizer. That fancy razor you use? Almost certainly a Gillette or a Schick. And that huge plane you flew on for your last vacation? Yep, Boeing or Airbus. I'm telling you, this pattern is absolutely everywhere once you start looking for it.
So what's the deal here? How is it that so many important markets just boil down to a couple of dominant companies? Is that just a coincidence? Or is there some deeper, more powerful economic force at play? Well, that is the big mystery we are going to solve today.
All right, first things first, let's put a name to this phenomenon. We're diving headfirst into what you could call a world of duos, or, if you want to get technical, the world of oligopolies.
So what exactly is an oligopoly? Well, it really just boils down to two key things. First, you only have a handful of companies in the ring. And second, there are these massive barriers, could be natural, could be legal, that make it incredibly difficult for any new players to even get into the game.
Now, to really understand how these few companies behave, you kind of have to throw the old supply and demand textbook out the window. See, when there are only a few players on the field, every single move is strategic. We need a totally different way to look at it. We need to start thinking in games.
Game theory might sound super complicated, but the core idea is actually pretty simple. It's the study of making strategic choices. It's all about figuring out your best move, knowing that your opponent is over there trying to figure out their best move at the same time. Honestly, it's the perfect way to analyze the high-stakes chess match between these corporate giants.
And you know what? There is one single, classic thought experiment that just perfectly captures the tension at the very heart of every oligopoly. It's called the prisoner's dilemma.
So here's the setup. Picture this. Two partners in crime, we'll call them Art and Bob. They get caught. The cops are smart, so they stick them in separate interrogation rooms. The key is they can't talk to each other. Then the DA walks in and offers each guy the exact same deal. Their choices are going to decide everything.
Okay, let's put ourselves in Art's shoes for a second. He has no idea what Bob is going to do. So he starts thinking, okay, if Bob confesses, my best move is to confess too. 3 years is way better than 10. But what if Bob stays quiet and denies everything? Well, my best move is still to confess, because 1 year is better than 2. You see the logic? No matter what Bob does, Art is always better off confessing. And Bob, sitting alone in his room, is doing the exact same mental math. His best move is always to confess too.
And that outcome, where they both confess? That's what's called a Nash equilibrium, named after the brilliant mathematician John Nash. It's a point in the game where neither player can improve their situation by changing their own strategy. Basically, Art and Bob have both played their best possible move, given what they expect the other one to do.
And this is the crazy part. This is the dilemma. The best outcome for the group, for both of them together, is if they both deny. They'd each only get 2 years. But because they can't trust each other, they both act purely in their own self-interest, they both confess, and they both end up with a worse outcome of 3 years in jail. So, how in the world does a story about two criminals connect to boardrooms and balance sheets? Well, what happens when you swap out Art and Bob for two competing companies? The dilemma doesn't just show up again, it gets amplified. This is where the game gets very, very real.
Okay, so meet Trick and Gear. They're the only two players in their market. They make a secret deal, which, by the way, is super illegal, to act like a single monopoly. They agreed to limit how much they produce to keep prices high and make the most profit possible. Now, they have two choices: comply with the deal or... Look familiar? This table shows their options, but with dollars instead of jail time. If they both comply with their secret deal, they each walk away with a nice $2 million profit. But if one of them cheats and produces more, they can corner the market and rake in a massive $4.5 million, leaving the other guy with a $1 million loss. And if they both cheat, the market gets flooded, prices crash, and all that extra profit, gone.
You see where this is going, don't you?
Just like with Art and Bob, the individual incentive to cheat is just massive. Gear's CEO looks at this and thinks, if Trick complies, I make way more by cheating, 4.5 mil versus 2. And if Trick cheats, I'm still better off cheating because making 0 is better than losing $1 million. Gear's best strategy is always to cheat. And of course, Trick's logic is exactly the same.
So what's the result? An all-out price war. Both companies cheat, they flood the market, and their dream of splitting those sweet monopoly profits completely evaporates. They end up driving the price down so low that they make 0 extra profit. They are right back where they would have been in a normal competitive market. That powerful incentive to cheat destroys the very thing they were trying to protect.
So you might be thinking, okay, if rational self-interest just naturally blows these secret agreements apart, why do we even need laws to regulate them? And that is a great question, because sometimes they do manage to work, and that's when you need the referees to step in.
And that's where U.S. antitrust laws come into play. You've got the Sherman Act from way back in 1890, which basically made it a felony to form a cartel or conspire to kill off competition. And then the Clayton Act of 1914 came along and beefed it up, outlawing specific business practices that could lead to a monopoly. The whole point is to make sure the game stays fair for us, the consumers.
But how do regulators even know when a market is getting too concentrated? Well, they've got this tool with a kind of clunky name, the Herfindahl-Hirschman Index, or HHI for short. It's just a way to measure how big the companies are in an industry and get a sense of how much real competition is left.
Let's make this real. A while back, in the middle of the soda wars, Pepsi wanted to buy 7-Up, and Coca-Cola wanted to buy Dr. Pepper. So regulators pulled out the HHI. A score over 1,800 is already a red flag for a concentrated market. These deals would have rocketed the score way higher, which was a huge signal that competition was about to nosedive. So the FTC stepped in and blocked both deals, all to keep that market from getting even more dominated by a few players.
The thing is, this oligopoly game is being played out all around us, every single day. When you're picking a cell phone plan, choosing a streaming service, booking a flight, it teaches us this really powerful lesson, that what seems like rational self-interest doesn't always lead to the best result for everyone. So the real question is, now that you know the rules of the game, can you spot it being played?